Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Angel, and today we're going to be doing some Christmas dupes. This first project is inspired by this Victorian kissing ball from Sonoma, and I'm going to make my own just using a Dollar Tree little floral foam thing. This was actually a square one, and I just cut the edges off to round it up a little bit, and then I just went around and collected some of this hollyberry from Dollar Tree, and then these are just little pieces of leaves that I had from old stems. And I'm going to start by cutting all of these little holly berries to start with. Now, before I start adding in my little picks, I am going to thread some ribbon through this floral foam, just using some velvet ribbon and this long plastic needle. I just stuck the velvet ribbon through that needle and then pushed it up through the piece of foam. Then I'm just kind of working that ribbon back and forth until I get it the length that I want it. Once I had it pulled through enough, then I was able to just cut that bottom section into two pieces. And for the bottom section, I'm actually going to tie a pretty little bow. And I left the top section a lot longer and just tied that into a knot. Then the first thing I'm going to add to this are those little hollyberry picks. And the fun thing about these Victorian kissing balls is that you can really just add in an eclectic mix of greenery for these, or red berries, pearls, even ornaments sometimes are on these. So really just use what you have and you can make these look beautiful. I obviously didn't have enough of those hollyberry stems to fill this up, but like I said, that's okay because I just kind of pulled things I did have. I had some of these extra berries from Dollar Tree, and then I'm also using some cedar stems and some pine stems in here. And I just continued filling all the little spaces and kind of moving things around until I was happy with it. This next project is inspired by this brass rocking reindeer that I saw from Antique Farmhouse. So I grabbed one of these acrylic reindeer from Dollar Tree, and then I'm just going to be using a little thin scrap piece of wood that I had in my stash, and then these little door handles that I've had in my stash for a while. I think these are actually from Home Depot, and they were probably on clearance fairly cheap. Now, the original rocking reindeer from Antique Farmhouse did have a more natural piece of wood that the reindeer is standing on, but I decided that I wanted to darken mine up a little bit. So I just watered down some paint and then stained that little piece of wood with that. For the reindeer, I am going in and doing 2 coats of my black chalk paint. Once it was dry, then to give it that brass look that the Antique Farmhouse one had, I'm just going in with a really stiff stenciling brush and some of my European Gold Rub and Buff, and I'm going to go over this entire reindeer, but I am leaving some of that black showing through. Then I'm going to glue this reindeer to that little piece of wood, and I'm just using some gel super glue. I actually put it on a popsicle stick so that I could kind of spread that glue out and it wouldn't be super thick and seep out from under the reindeer. I let that glue completely dry for about 30 minutes, and then I also glued those handles to the bottom of the wood piece, and once that glue was dry, then I did add in a couple little screws to make sure that stays on there. Then to finish it off, even though the Antique Farmhouse one didn't have any little ribbon around its neck, I just wanted to add some of this red velvet ribbon. This next project is inspired by these little bells and the stand. I've been seeing these everywhere. I just think they are super adorable, but the price point is very expensive. So I decided to make my own. I'm just using some Dollar Tree little square plaque pieces, and I drilled holes into the backside of each of these. And then I'm using these thicker dowels. I got these from Amazon, and I cut one a little bit shorter, then pre-drilled up into the bottom of them, and also I pre-drilled into the backside because I'm gonna be using these little curtain hangers that I've had just laying around and thought these would be perfect to make the little hangers. So to start off, I'm just gonna screw everything together, starting with those bases and those dowels, and then I will screw in those little curtain hangers to the backside of the dowels. Then I gave each of these 2 coats of my black chalk paint. While that's drying, I'm going to start working on making the bells for these. There are tons of different ways to make your own bells, but I really wanted something lightweight, and I also wanted some skinnier bells because I have a lot of the chunkier ones. So for these bells, I ended up using some old Easter eggs that I probably got from Dollar Tree, and then some little paper towel rolls that I just cut down to 2 different sizes. So for the tops of these bells, the bottom pieces of these plastic Easter eggs kind of fit perfectly down into a paper towel or toilet paper roll. And then I did want to make them a little bit sturdier. So if you take the top piece of that Easter egg and push it up into the bottom, that will help these be a little bit sturdier so they can't get crushed. Then for the top rings, I'm just using some Dollar Tree book rings, and these little Easter eggs happen to already have 2 little holes in those bottom pieces. So I just slid the little book rings up through those holes and then added some hot glue so that they would stay upright. Then I'm gonna glue those pieces of the plastic eggs with some gel super glue down into the paper towel roll. And for those bottom pieces that I'm going to push up in there, I just put a few dots of the gel super glue and then slid those up in there. Then I'm going to give both of these bells 2 coats of black chalk paint, but for the second coat, I ended up doing a baking soda and chalk paint mixture just to give these a little bit of texture. And here you can see I'm just kind of tapping that baking soda and paint mixture. Then pretty much the same way I did the reindeer, I'm gonna go in with some European Gold Rub and Buff and go over both of these bells, but leaving some of that black showing through. This final project is just generally inspired by all the little velvet Christmas trees that I've been seeing. So I wanted to make my own, and I am starting out basically with the same thing that I did for the bells. I'm just using a round wood piece from Dollar Tree and a larger dowel to start with, and I screwed that base into the dowel. And then I just stained the entire piece with some watered down paint. The velvet I'm actually using is from Amazon, and you can buy this by the yard for around $12. I ended up getting this really pretty deep red color, and I'm just going to start out by using different size plates and bowls, and I think I ended up doing 5 of these in different sizes. So I'm just marking these circles on the backside of that velvet. Once I cut all my circles out, then I'm going to start with the largest one, and I just have a needle and some thread. I didn't have any red thread, which would have been preferable, but I ended up using some black thread, and then I'm just going to tie a knot at the end of that thread and just start working this in and out of the fabric on the very edge of it. And I'm just going to keep doing that same in and out pattern all the way around the edge until I get back to where I started. And once you come back around to where you started, then you can just kind of pull on the thread to make a little pocket. Now I want these to be a little bit flatter and not so bulky. So I'm spreading mine back out a little bit, and then I'm just gonna put a tiny bit of stuffing in here. This stuffing is just from an old pillow, but you could definitely use whatever you have on hand. But as you can see, I am still making these a little bit flatter. Once I had my stuffing in, then I did pull on that thread to tighten it up a little bit on the top, but I am not actually going to close this all the way. So once I had it closed the amount that I wanted, then I did for this bottom piece go back and forth a couple times with my needle and thread just to make sure the edges stayed closed. And then to finish this piece off, I just tied a little knot using the needle. Now to add this to the dowel, I do need to cut a small hole in the bottom of this. So I'm just using some sharp tipped scissors, and I'm gonna make a little hole right in the center and then slide this down onto the dowel. Then I'm gonna start working on my next piece, and I did the exact same thing, but for this one, I did close it just a little bit more. As you continue working your way up the tree to the smaller pieces, you're gonna keep closing those just a little more with each one until you get to the top one, which you will close all the way. Once I had my final piece on the top, then I did cut that dowel down just a little bit because there was quite a bit still sticking out. So I just made it flush with the top piece, and then for the topper, I just drilled a hole down into the dowel and added a Dollar Tree crystal knob. And that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.